This episode of The Guru Learns is sponsored by Sheets.com. Remember, a good night's sleep begins with a great set of sheets. And now, here is the Guru of the Seas with special guest Ryan Joseph.
And we are back. This is episode number 4 of The Guru Learns. If you're new to this podcast, it came about because I interviewed somebody about sheets. He happened to be the sponsor of my regular podcast, the Daily Cruise and Travel News podcast, and it was so well received. Everybody learned everything they needed to know about sheets. And so I've continued on. I've interviewed a cruise director about the life of a cruise director. I've interviewed an Irish guy who went from building furniture to starring on the West End. And my guest today is Ryan Joseph, who is also a star. He's a star in Music City, USA, where he moved many years ago from a town that a lot of people have heard on the ship, McKeesport, Pennsylvania. And we're going to talk about Music City. We're going to talk about Ryan. We're going to talk about the trip from McKeesport to Nashville. And so we welcome Ryan Joseph to the podcast. How are you, sir?
It's great to be with you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad you could do it. I know you're a little busy right now. Let's start with living in one of my favorite places because of Broadway, in Music City, USA. I didn't mention in the opening, you're a professor. You're a doctor of music at Belmont University. Tell us just a little bit about that and your students and bluegrass.
I am a doctor, but I always tell people that you don't want me to come anywhere near you with a pair of gloves. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a musical doctor, if there is such a thing. But
if you need a fiddle, if you need a fiddle, call me. If you need an appendectomy, reach out to somebody else.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I'm thrilled to have my work at Belmont University here in Nashville. I actually got my master's degree there many moons ago, and it's a really great place that gives students authentic experiences in music. And that's really what I'm all about. Just, real world experiences for the up and comers who are looking to do whatever it is that I do and so many others here in this town. So we have great experiences. Just a couple of weeks ago, we actually had Andrea Bocelli that came and sang a concert at the Fisher Center here on Belmont's campus. It was just probably one of my favorite musical experiences that I've ever had personally, to be on stage. The faculty were also a part of the orchestra, and be on stage with my students and with Andrea Bocelli and Trisha Yearwood, Michael W. Smith, C.C. Winans. It was just an absolutely incredible experience, and you don't get to do things like that typically in a collegiate setting.
Now, I saw the promotion for that, but I didn't know you were actually – I didn't put this in the opening as a background. One of Ryan's many things that he does is he tours with country star Alan Jackson. He is Alan's fiddler, mandolin, and also backup singer. And you've had the opportunity to go on stage with so many famous people, being Nashville based, because back me up on this, some of the best musicians in the country live in Nashville, Tennessee. Some of the best players, they choose to play country, but you can play classical, you can play country, you can play fiddle, you can all that stuff. So I didn't realize you were on stage doing that. That had to be pretty good.
It was absolutely incredible. Have one of the greatest voices in the whole world. And he really enjoyed it. He actually said that it was one of the best orchestras. I mean, he was just like, and I think the energy of students and just they were so prepared, and it was just, again, just really authentic and an incredible experience. And yeah, Nashville is Music City, USA, and it attracts many of the world's best musicians. And for myself, I'm humbled. I get every time I get on stage, I learn something from those that I have the opportunity to play with. But it is, known as, or it started as Music City with country music, but every genre is covered here. Mm-hmm. And just like you with your podcast, technology has enabled voices to be heard worldwide, even if they're located in sunny Florida or Nashville.
Now,
But,
let me jump in and back up to Andrea Bocelli. He did not sing "The Devil Went Down to Georgia," right?
You know, it was requested, but he wanted to sing it in Italian, and it just became uncomfortable when we decided not to.
What was the
no.
What was the playlist? Was it Nessun Dorma and the usual? He has a tight playlist of his songs, correct?
Right. There were a lot of arias on there.
Really?
And he had a soprano with him as well. And so it was a lot of that, but also, You'll Never Walk Alone and Amazing Grace and things like that too, that he's done over the years. So it was a really nice blend of material. And like I said, Trisha Yearwood came out and did a couple tunes. She's an alumni of Belmont. The event was kicking off a new campaign that Belmont has launched for supporting the programs and everything there, the School of Music. There's just a lot of great things on the horizon, and it was kind of a kickoff to this campaign for Belmont. So this podcast is always going to be all over the map. I have a list of things we want to talk about, but now that we've talked about Andrea Bocelli at Belmont, we could go to Alan. Yeah,
we'll get to that.
But primarily be about Alan, but yeah, exactly.
As long as it's interesting, wherever it goes, it goes. But now that we've talked about Andrea Bocelli, I think it's important people would be interested, because I was in Nashville. They have their own music, their own notes, their own dots on the page, as we say. Now, when you're playing Andrea Bocelli, it's the full regular orchestration, correct?
Totally. Yeah. So they sent his books and everything, and it was full traditional standard notation on the page, because it was a full orchestra. So there were probably 70 or 80 people on stage playing along with him. And there was a full chorus as well. So, if you add all the people up, there were, probably 200 people on stage. It was amazing. But
by way of explanation, this is tough. We're just doing audio, so we're not seeing each other to cut, so he can tell me to shut up. Give me the cut signal. In Nashville, it's not normal orchestration, right? It just quickly explain. There's a system someone created of music there, correct?
Right. So basically, and you're talking about what they call the Nashville number system. So if I play with Alan, or if I play at the Opry, or if I play music in those settings, which is more aural, which has a little more flexibility in what I play, it's basically like a context type of chart. So you write numbers on a page to show what chords are being played underneath the melody. It shows the overall rhythm, the timing of things. And anybody can do it. I when I'm doing little programs for people, I'll use the Orange Blossom Special, and I'll start with the Sound of Music and say, okay, everybody knows how to go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So we all sing it. And then I'll say, okay, replace that with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And after 8, a musician can't really count. So you got
there you go.
Actually, it's about to 7, and then you go back to 1 because of the octave thing. I won't get into all that stuff. But all that to be said, so each number that you see on a piece of paper represents one measure of music. So if you can hear the Orange Blossom Special in your ear, all your audience members right now, if you, along with that melody, went 1, 4, 5, 1, if you just kept singing that harmony, which is what you see on the piece of paper on the Nashville number system. This is interesting. I've never tried to explain this without having some visual element. But if you saw that on a piece of paper, and then I played the melody of the Orange Blossom Special, they would go together. So in music, and even a lot of classical settings and institutions, when you're learning music, you learn your part. You learn, if you're working on a concerto or you're working on some type of piece of music, as a violinist, which I am, you just see your part on a piece of paper and you play it. But for music, like the whole thing with music to me is about collaboration. Even as a consumer, your audience members, if they go out to hear music, they probably don't want to just hear a guy on stage playing the violin by themselves.
Right.
They want to hear it with groove. They want to hear a drummer. They want to hear piano. They want to hear guitar. They want to hear the collaboration. And so the best explanation I can give of that Nashville number system is it's one chart that everybody looks at, that shows the context, that shows like the constants of the tune, so the chords, the groove, all that stuff. And then when it comes to the melody, that's more flexible, and you can play that over top of the context. So all that to be said, yeah, we have different ways of communicating music. But what I tell my students, like, music has always come first in the world. Like, even if Mozart or Beethoven or all that stuff, like, they were right in composing music, but it wasn't about the notation. They used notation as a way to have it last, to allow people to play it. So I think in a lot of music schools, we get stuck on the notation, and then the students aren't really listening to themselves. They're not really listening to others. And when people ask me, what do I do for a living when it comes to university teaching, I say, I teach students how to listen.
Yeah.
That's really, like, that's my job. And if they can listen to the level that the Nashville musicians typically listen at, they'll be just fine.
And also,
there you go. There's my spiel.
I'll tell you what, anybody listening, you know why he's one of the most popular professors at Belmont. And the young people all love his classes because you can hear the passion. But I guess along the same line on Chips, the Eastern European bands, they're so focused on the note on the page, they don't really enjoy the music, and they play it accordingly. If the guy doing Sinatra stuff with the wrong band, it all sounds like a march into Warsaw, because they just don't hear it. They just play it. It doesn't have any meaning to them. So I see that sometimes on the ships quite a bit. We went way off the reservation with that, but I've always found that so unique. I didn't know it until you explained it to me at one time. We'll back up a little bit. So, Ryan is a professor of music, a doctor of music. Thank you. No sharp objects, as well as he travels with Alan Jackson. And also, and we're going to back up to how he got there, but also over the years, he's been behind many, many famous people, and also jumps in at the Grand Ole Opry from time to time. When Jeannie Seely was still with us, a huge country star and a friend, she's pretty much, you had to be in her band if you were available, right? When she was at the Opry, was that the deal?
She always let me do kind of whatever I needed to do. If I had a commitment with Alan, or if I had other commitments, she would always, I would find a sub for myself and all that. So I was always there with her, if I could be, which was very often. But yeah, she's just a dear friend who we recently lost, and it's a big hole in my heart. And I realized, Tom, it's this about me. Like, I love music, but I love people more. Yeah. And Jeannie really, even when she passed away, I found a voicemail on my phone from her. From 2012, I guess. And it said, Ryan, Alan Jackson is looking for a fiddle player. He's looking for your number. So she was even a part of me getting that gig. She was one of the first people I ever met in Nashville. But beyond that, like, when she passed away, you just, it's not about what she did for me. It's just about, I loved her, and she loved me, thankfully, and so it's really about people and connections, and that's what I love about what you do. You really connect people. You're hilarious, and I
enough
can't
of me.
Get off conversation with you without. You're connecting people.
Yeah, I know. It's more about your wife. You know that. I'm gonna cut this off because I went. I went so far of the reservation. So now we're gonna back way up. I meant to ask you, Ryan grew up in the same hometown as my wife Dottie in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, and we met a long time ago, because anybody that's been on the ship with us knows that in the Welcome Aboard show, Dottie asked if there's anybody from McKeesport, Pennsylvania, and not half the room, but quite a people in the room raised their hand, including Mrs. Jazowicz, if I remember right, and they were all from Dottie's church, because they were there with the Jimmy Sturr band, wasn't it? Was Jimmy Sturr back then?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. They were all, and Ryan was the ripe old age of 15 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And you were the fiddler with Jimmy Sturr. Is it polite to say why you were there? Because the other fiddler was, he had a previous commitment. We won't say that.
Sure.
He drank a bit, and they couldn't trust him.
Yeah.
And so Ryan,
they thought a 15-year-old wouldn't pull up the bar tab as much as he would.
So that's how we met a long time ago, and actually, many years later, reconnected when I saw him on stage at Red Rocks with Alan Jackson, and I pointed and said, "Dottie, this guy's from Pittsburgh," and so my wife goes, "That's Ryan." In any case, you decided after, starting at a young age playing fiddle in your uncle's polka band.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And sadly lost your dad. You would just pick up like the Beverly Hillbillies. Nashville. We're going to go to Nashville and see what would happen. Did you have a plan when you left McKeesport? You were just going to go there and see what happened?
Well, I'll back it up just a few years, but when I was getting my undergraduate degree in music education at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, in Pittsburgh and in my situation, my whole family did music as a hobby.
Yeah.
So it was, you're going to do this on the weekends and you're going to get your real job. And, that's just how life goes. And so I was okay with that, but I wanted to do music as a career. I had toyed with actually being a real doctor, and going into pediatrics. But one day I just kind of woke up and realized that God was, this was obviously the gift that he gave me and my true passion in life. And I thought, well, if you're going into pediatrics, you love kids, yeah, all that stuff, but you're probably just doing it for the money.
The other thing is
you think you're going to make a lot of money with that.
Yeah. If you'd done that, you never would have been able to ride the bus with the Strayhorns, but we'll get to that in a couple.
Amen. Amen.
We'll get to that. So anyway, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. You're good. But yeah, so I decided to go into music education because I thought, well, you love kids. Yeah, that's why you're going into pediatrics, but you also, you love music, and that's what you're best at probably. So I did that, and that was my whole plan. And then, like you said, my father passed away, sadly, unexpectedly, of a heart attack when he was 52 years old. He never smoked, never drank, healthiest guy in the world, walked all the time and everything. And just totally sudden had a heart attack. But used to tell me every day, Ryan, do something you love. I can't wait till I'm 65. I can't wait till I retire. And that was cut short. And I realized, I don't care if you live 150 years. It's still a short period of time. So you better love what you're doing.
Yep.
So anyway, when he passed away, because of having this desire to do music more professionally, loving country music, and all of that, I just decided to give Nashville a try. And when we had the family band, we had been nominated for a Grammy in the polka category in 2005. And at that Grammy Awards, we were assigned to sit next to folks from Nashville, from the Country Music Hall of Fame, who won for Best Historical Album that year for a project they put together called Night Train to Nashville around their major exhibition at the time. But anyway, moved to Nashville, wound up contacting them again, and they helped me get my first job in Nashville after having a music education degree, which was on the frontline staff. Greeting guests and everything, pressing the elevator button when they'd go upstairs. I was making a whole $7.50 an hour, as I was doing that. And so that lasted for a few months before thinking, okay, well, first of all, you're not going to be able to pay your rent if if this is all you're doing. And second of all, you need to progress in your career a little bit more. So I wound up going to Belmont for my master's at the time. I I had originally known about Belmont because of their program, Christmas at Belmont, that still runs every year and gets broadcast. Now it's getting broadcast on Amazon Prime. It used to be on PBS. But all that to be said, I have to step aside just for 1 second to say I'm sitting outside here in Nashville talking to you. And as I'm talking about my dad, there's a cardinal, or there's actually two cardinals. I don't know who the other one is, but they're looking down on me from a tree up there. That's pretty cool. Every time I see a cardinal, I think about my dad.
Well, we should probably, I never knew about this. We should explain it. My wife explained this to me. It's got to be a Pittsburgh thing. That when you,
maybe it is.
Yeah, when you see a cardinal, because I forget, I guess it was my brother-in-law. When we lost my brother-in-law, we came home and the next day we saw a cardinal, and she was calling the bird Bo, and I go, "Why are you calling the bird Bo?" She goes, "That's probably Bo." And I go, "What are you talking about? When you see a cardinal after someone's passed away, that's usually the person." I said, "So the bird is Bo?" And she said, "Probably." I said, "It can't be Bo. He hasn't asked me to do anything for him." Because my brother-in-law, whenever he was at our house, would say, "Tom, do me a favor. Would you do me a favor? Every time I walk near him, get me this, get me that." The bird didn't ask for anything. I said, "That can't be Bo. The bird doesn't say anything." So now you know this is an unusual podcast. You've already learned how in Nashville they don't read notes, they read numbers. And if you see a cardinal, it could be your dead brother-in-law. Anyway. We move on. So that
I pick that back up. So anyway, I went to Belmont and started meeting folks and started asking even people outside of Belmont for lessons and everything. The person you mentioned before, Kenny Sears, who started this band called the Time Jumpers, he had a lesson with him, and he was very kind. And he said, "If I ever hear anything, I'll let you know." And
let's back.
Two and a half.
I'm going to step on you. Let's back up a little bit. When you mentioned Kenny, for people that haven't spent any time in Music City, it's called Third and Lindsley, and every Monday, the Time Jumpers, who are the best session players in Nashville, they appear there along with, when he's in town, Vince Gill, who's always there, and you never know who's going to stop by. And that ticket is hard to get. I mean, it's like one of the most coveted, quiet little tickets in Nashville when you go there, because these guys are just nothing short of amazing. And if I'm not mistaken, you did sit in with them one night, didn't you?
I certainly did, and yeah, they're incredible. Vince does not play with the band anymore, but
he doesn't.
But yes, he doesn't. No, it's had a number of iterations over the years. They actually been around for now 22 years, I think. It's kind of crazy, but exactly like you said, they started out the Station Inn, and they kind of outgrew the size of that venue, so they moved over to Third and Lindsley, and it's still a coveted ticket. But yeah, Kenny Sears started that band with a gentleman named Hoot Hester, and it just kind of transpired because of jams that they would have backstage at the Opry. And, a lot of the country music, and actually it's funny, I just had Kenny in to talk to my class this week, so I have his story right at the top of my brain. But he was talking about how being backstage and playing a lot of this country music, a lot of it's not that hard, for a fiddle player. You're playing, there's some stuff that's difficult and challenging, but sometimes you're just padding, behind a vocal or playing long notes or whatever. So they would
let me stop you right. I keep interrupting you, but I think this is something else that's talking about the Guru Learns. I talked to Ryan about the difference between violin and fiddle, and you can explain it, but basically when you're playing the violin, you're playing those notes the way the notes are. And when you're playing the fiddle, it's you, as you told me, it was like learning to speak. Am I correct?
Right. So it's by ear. Right. So go back to your bands on ships. They technically probably learned music by notes, but you can't help learning by ear. So the only thing that they're attuned to is music from where they grew up. So right. You referenced Sinatra. They never heard anything like Sinatra growing up. So how do you play that unless you live it? It's part of your it's just like learning how to talk. And if you come to Nashville, people are going to talk a little bit differently than if they talk in Boston or New York, as we kind of exhibit right now. Right?
Well, I was going to say, you don't say yins anymore. So you don't.
No. I mean,
downtown.
It's funny. You just hear what you say what you hear. So, anyway, yeah. So a fiddle player is learning exclusively by ear how we learn to talk, and then we learn how to read the words that we say. But in the classical tradition, when it comes to, especially, I'll speak again with violin. Music is typically put in front of your face from the very beginning, and that's fine. But if it's done in a way that shuts down the ear, if it inhibits you from learning to listen and knowing, I did a little program with music education students a couple of weeks ago, and I was doing it on improvisation, which most classical musicians are just scared to death about improvising. Like, are you kidding me? It's the easiest thing in the world to do. Where you talk sorry, I'm going all over the place, but they're learning. Your folks are learning here.
They are. This is exactly what the podcast is supposed to be. It's like people listening to this will find out. That classical violinists are pansies. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. they will
definitely learn that we didn't have a plan before we started this as far as what we were going to do. You had a plan and I broke it.
No, I didn't.
But anyway, to start this program out, I have like 4 students get up and I go, okay, you're going to have a conversation. Go. And it's awkward and they're looking at each other. Hi, how are you? Whatever. Somebody might say something about the weather or something, and then if somebody responds to that weather comment by, oh yeah, well, I think it's going to rain tomorrow or whatever, like this one topic of conversation is an inspiration, the topic is an inspiration for conversation.
Right.
So all that to be said, the point of that activity is that it's the same in music. If somebody plays something, you're supposed to hear what they say, respond to it in your way, but you have to have that context, like we were talking about, that's on the number system. If somebody says the sky is blue and then the other person says it's cold outside and the other person says, that chair is red, like that doesn't make any sense. And right. That's the way a classical musician tries to improvise. They think that they can just pick all of these different topics or things and have it sound like some cohesive unit, and it's just impossible to do. But anyway, so I said to these students, I said, well, what do you think of when a piece of music is put in front of you? And there was a bassoon player in the room, and she goes, ledger lines. And ledger lines are like these lines on a score that mean its notes either above or below the staff.
Right. And
what you can have, 5, 6, 7, whatever ledger lines, which becomes hard to read. And so my whole point was, okay, so the first thing that you think about music is ledger lines. And you still came to music school because you love music and you want to make that your career. Can you imagine if the first thing that you think about when you're playing music is the person in the seat who, maybe just lost a loved one and your music is going to heal them?
Yeah.
Replace the ledger lines with that and take that as your career inspiration, and it's going to change your life. It's just crazy. But anyway,
I'm going to draw a parallel to that. When you're a stand-up comedian and you walk out and the guy in the front row is sound asleep and the other one is looking at you like your zipper's down, and you think to yourself, there's nothing I can do to save those two. Just do the show, stare straight ahead, don't make eye contact, just play the joke the way you wrote it and then move on. So, all right, well, let's change gears again. So anyway, you're a tremendous professor of music. You play at the Opry now. Through Kenny and Jeannie, you get an audition with Alan Jackson, and the rest is pretty good. How many years? 14 years? 13 years with Alan?
14, yeah. 14 years. It's been the honor of my life, and Alan was the first record I ever purchased with my own money. It was actually a compact disc when I was a kid. So I loved Alan's music. Very, fiddle heavy. There's a lot of fiddle parts and everything on it, but the stories, in his songs, he wrote most of his songs, most of his hits by himself. Just an incredible life and career in music. But yeah, okay, so I get a call from Jeannie. Wound up getting the audition because Kenny threw my name in the hat, and the connection there is Kenny Sears was Jeannie's fiddle player. So that's how they connected.
Okay.
And again, the rest is history. And fast forwarding to just last year, Jeannie started using 3 fiddles. The old, time country stuff would often have a triple fiddle section. So it all kind of came full circle where I got to play at the Opry, 3 or 4 times a week with Jeannie and Kenny. If it all ended tomorrow, which it's not going to, God willing, but if it all ended tomorrow, I am the luckiest guy in the world, But
so, all right, so here we go. We're going to concede that Alan is a country superstar. Now you have a job with Alan, and you're going to ride the bus with the Strayhorns. That's the band. That's Alan's band for years, from the very beginning. Just very quickly, the life of a musician that signs up for that. Because you traveled by bus from Nashville to wherever the venue was. Occasionally they would fly you, but most of the time you would pick up the bus on a Thursday or Friday and ride it somewhere.
Yep. And at the time when I first got the gig, Alan owned both his bus and the band bus. So it was the same bus all the time. We knew where it was, and you could throw stuff on it, take stuff off of it anytime during the week, or keep things on it. It became like your little piece of home that moved around. But just to back up a little bit with the audition, that was the first time I met the band, and we just all met at a guy's house, one of the other backup singers' house, and we just played some of these songs in his office, and the drummer was playing on a chair, type of thing.
Really?
And there was nothing fancy about it, but they had, I think, around 15 people that came and did that. And then they narrowed it to 3 people. And the 3 of us went down to Florida to one of Alan's shows and played with him at Soundcheck. And then I got selected out of those 3. 4 or 5 days later, I get a call from Joey Schmidt, who's the piano player, telling me I got the gig. And I'll never forget right where I was on the street in Hermitage, Tennessee, when I got that call, and I was bawling my eyes out. And it was just this just incredible experience. But what I've loved, just like I'm telling you before, with loving people, you mentioned the Strayhorns, that's been the best thing about that gig, is just becoming family with all of those guys. They're just the dearest people. I was just texting with Bruce, the drummer, before I talked to you today. I mean, we're still just best of friends, and it's tight quarters living on a bus, right? So no matter how glamorous it looks, after 3 days on a bus and showers and whatever the way they are, it's not as glamorous as you think it is. Now the nice thing about these guys too is that there's a respect level there, so you understand this isn't the most glorious living quarters with 8 people on a bus. So people are respectful. They clean up after themselves, and they keep things that are their personal items in the areas designated that we know we can keep things in, and all of that. But between the respect and the fun that we have with each other, it just is such a great experience. You know what?
I have to wonder out loud that all of those people that auditioned, there was certainly, to get the audition, there was a level of professionalism, virtuoso, whatever you want to call it. The ability to play was there, but the decision probably based partly on whether or not you would get along with everybody in that environment, and be that kind of person. I would think, because maybe the 1 or 2 bad fiddle players got the audition, but I would think most of them could play it pretty good, as you do. But then the other part of it is, you're going to fit into this whole environment. It's got to be different. Like you said, 3 days on the bus, with a bass player. That's one of the problems, because the rest of the band, it's the bass player. And how in the hell did a bassoon player get in your class? I thought you only taught violin. How'd you get a bassoon player in there? How did he? Because you can't hide the instrument. Like a violin, you can have it down on your side. You can't hide a bassoon when you carry it in. So all right, well, I set a 30-minute time limit because I've been told by so many people that's as long as anybody will listen. But I have to believe everybody is still listening because we've been all over the map when it comes to music, education, passion, touring. Alan making the move from McKeesport, pushing the elevator, ended up, Europe. Now let's get to the next level. We know, if you know country music, Alan is retiring for health reasons, and he's having one big final event next June 27th at the Bridgestone Arena, right? It's outdoors. It's an outdoor stadium. It's
It's Nissan Stadium.
Nissan
Bridgestones are indoor, but Nissan Stadium, yeah.
And so just briefly, you can list for the people that understand country music, the lineup for this event that you'll be playing like a lot of songs for a long time outdoors in June. Is it hot in June? And it'd be hot, right? So who's on that?
Oh yeah.
Who's on that? I'm sorry. I'll keep walking on
anybody from, you're fine. Like from Carrie Underwood, Luke Combs. I have to get the lineup that they released here on my phone, but Luke Bryan. It's just a who's who of country music these days. Cody Johnson. Just so many people that are going to come out and play along with Alan and honor his historic career. It's going to be quite a show.
And you'll be bringing songs out that he hasn't played in a long, long time. He has 50 charted hits, but he has a pretty tight playlist. I've been to the concert, thanks to Ryan. It's pretty much the same playlist every time. So you're going to be bringing out some music that no one has played in a while. And how long is the rehearsal? 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. We haven't determined any of those. This is next June, so we'll probably start rehearsing this in May. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
kind of. It might wait till then, but yeah, it's and I'll also mention at this time too, like playing the Opry these days when I get to sub the fiddle position there. The thing about the Opry is it's a different show every night.
Yeah.
So you are having to, and sometimes there's 6-7 shows a week at the Opry. So if you're doing staff fiddle or staff band there, you're learning, say, 10 to 15 songs at least every day.
Wow.
And then you could possibly never play them again. And some of them, require a bunch of preparation. So my friend Eamon McLaughlin, who is the staff fiddle player there, I was just talking to him this week, and he played in the staff band this week with Lindsey Sterling, who made her Grand Ole Opry debut. Who, if you don't know her, she's a pretty big violinist who leans in the Celtic tradition. She was on Dancing with the Stars. Like, look her up if you don't know who she is. But all that to be said, her parts were very intricate, and none of them were written out. So here comes a hybrid example where Eamon knows both how to read and how to play by ear, and he's given these tracks of this is what the performance is going to need to sound like. Well, he has to notate the whole thing so it can sound exact when he plays it. And I've done the same thing. I'm trying to think. There was a band a couple of weeks ago that I played with that there were these intricate string parts. It was like this rock band that played the Opry for the first time. And, sometimes a preparation for one song can be an hour or two. Well, imagine if you're doing that every single day and you may not ever play those songs again. Like, it's crazy. So all that to be said, I made the joke about Alan and waiting until May to practice it. It very well could be the case because, we're used to learning songs very quickly.
Yeah.
And so all that to be said, but yeah, you're going to have a lot of Alan, hits and even songs from his records maybe you never even heard before that he and all these artists who've been listed, Miranda Lambert's another one. There's a bunch of them coming to my mind, but they're all going to be playing Alan songs as well.
And that'll be fun. And I'm lucky enough to be in the building when that happens. now another segue, and that's the fact that you've never abandoned your polka background. You're still heavily involved, and your mother is a member of the Polka Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken, right, Didi? And
Yeah.
you still get together with everybody, and once a year, people come to Nashville to celebrate that music and also learn more about country music with guided tours. And together, you and I, we're going to go in another direction in October of 2026. We haven't released it yet or announced it yet because Princess is dragging their feet. I can say that. We'll hopefully bring quite a few people onto a cruise up to Canada and New England. And just briefly, we just don't have the money. We don't have the details of the prices yet, but we know what we're going to do. They're going to be polka events, correct? How does that work with the polka thing?
For sure. So that's the music, like I said, that I grew up with. And you know, there's such a large group of people, I call it our, polka family that is around the country, that, has been brought together by this music that was brought to us from our ancestors, in my case, from Poland. But it's a happy music, whether you're Polish or Italian or whatever, German, whatever your background is, when you came to America, once you attend the polka event, you realize the joy that it brings. The dancing is so much fun. It's an up-tempo thing, and people hoot and holler and all the things. So all that to be said, yes, we do an event here in Nashville. We have this company called Music City All Access, and we do guided tours and a lot of VIP behind the curtain type of events that we've told you some of the stories today, and getting to meet more than just me who actually do these are in this business. I find that seeing Nashville through those eyes instead of through the eyes of a trolley that drives you past, somebody's house or something like that.
Trolley hell.
Nashville, you want to?
No, it's bachelorettes pedaling their way drunk around Broadway. That's what Nashville is in downtown.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I didn't ask you.
But hanging out with.
I keep walking on you. I didn't ask you off air, but is it sold out? Do we mention June or no? You're good?
There are less than a handful left. There's less than the fingers that you can count on one hand. So, quite honestly, I know there's a couple people who are dying to do it they're even friends of mine that trying to get their finances in order and all that stuff.
Right,
so I'm not advertising it anymore because I think they want those tickets. But if somebody calls up until those handful are left, then they can go. But it's going to be sold out.
I'll just briefly explain what you're not going to be part of. And that's a weekend in Nashville next June 26, 27, 28 that will involve what Ryan just described, polka events, but also a songwriter session and lower bowl tickets to see Alan Jackson's final concert with every superstar in the business. But guess what? It's too late. You lost out. But
if you call right when this podcast goes on, there's a possibility we can get your seat.
But mark the date, October 3rd, next 2026. It's round trip New York City on the Majestic Princess. And even if you don't polka, it's going to be a party. And we should also mention quickly that Ryan is booked as a guest entertainer on Holland America this New Year's. In between all the things that he does and also two daughters, he's going to be performing his own show, which is a bit of fiddle, a bit of guitar, a bit of saxophone, a bit of Jimmy Buffett, the usual Devil Went Down to Georgia, the Orange Blossom Special. It's one giant variety show in Holland America. What ship are they sticking you on? You don't know.
You got it. Starts with a K. I know that.
Oh, Koenigsegg. You're on the Koenigsegg. You're a typical musician. What
I can only remember one letter at a time, buddy. One letter at a time.
So I think that's the New Year's cruise on the Koenigsegg, and that's something that's been in the works for a while. Ryan is a great entertainer, but his schedule doesn't allow him to do much other than teach young people the passion of music and perform at the Opry, perform with Alan Jackson and every other superstar in the business, and a few other Music City All Access. I don't know how the hell you do it, to be honest with you. This
is a great reminder for me. I got to put it out there because of the length of this podcast. So when I get on the Kazakhstan, it's a 45-minute show. So stop talking so much, Ryan, and just play the darn fiddle.
Yeah, but it's two different 45. So you better start talking in the middle. So you have to fill 90. All right, this did go way over time. I hope people are still listening. I'm sure they are, actually. We've covered everything. We've covered Music City, USA, polka music, the passion of music, Alan Jackson, not rags to riches, from polka to country. You could call your autobiography. From McKeesport, from Nashville, just one letter up. You went from M to N, and you got a heck of a life. So thank you for joining me and educating all the people that enjoy listening to me interrupt people, because I do that better than anybody.
Well, I love you. I love Dottie, and thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.